All right, welcome back to another episode, Danny Beal Show, with a good mentor of mine and guy that I've had a love-hate relationship with when I was 18 because I didn't know any better and he made me work hard and I didn't like that very much. But we have former ECU strength coach, former Dodgers employee, but a great friend of mine, Brandon Golden. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Dude, thanks, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we talked a while ago about you coming on and you started your own show and I was looking forward to having you on just because like I said, I think you have a great perspective on a lot of things, especially with the places you've been and the people you've met. I think it'll be a really good conversation. But how have you been, dude?
Yeah, man. Good. Good. Yeah, just excited to hang out with you a little bit and chop it up. We're doing great though.
Cool. How's the lab doing up in High Point?
It's good. It's good, man. We're getting a little traction going. Guys, people down there in the eastern part of the state will probably recognize his name, Macon Langston. His grandfather and father were high school baseball coaches at high level. His grandpa coached CG and coached at Green Central, Rabbit Fulgen. So his dad was at South Central. He's here working with me as a biomechanist and assistant performance coach, and he's helping me level things up a lot. The way that you guys know how my mind works, I like to do things at a high level and not have clusters, and he's helping me with that. So he's the closest thing that I found to myself at that age and wanting to be great and wanting to learn. And so super excited to have him around and just continue to build the lab up and get it the way we want it.
Nice. Well, it's good. It's one of those things you got to surround yourself with like-minded people, and the fact that you found somebody that's younger and just as motivated as you, it's few and far in between. So I'm glad it's working out. But I guess starting off, get a little bit into your background and where you got today. You're a 2012 ECU grad, but I guess looking back on your whole journey, did you always know that coaching and I guess baseball specifically was a passion of yours? I mean, we'll get into your journey here in a second, but looking back on from going to college to pro to private, I think it's a really cool aspect of everything that you've done. But did you always know from the time that you graduated where you are now that this was something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. I didn't. So like being an undergrad at East Carolina, probably like most people in undergrad, I thought I wanted to do one thing, and it changed. And once I graduated, I came back here, and um, my dad had emphysema, and I thought like I always knew I wanted to help people and be a part of like people's journey and just kind of pushing whatever that envelope is for those individuals. And I thought it was respiratory therapy, and something that was kind of near and dear to my heart with my dad. And I started interning at the local hospital and doing some like cardiac rehab and things like that. And it was the exact opposite of what I wanted to do. As you can imagine from us,
Yeah.
the way we interacted and the way we did things in the weight room in college
Oh yeah.
baseball is
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
be further from that. And there's definitely a place for that and a need for that. But at 21, 22 years old, that's just not that wasn't the place for me. And so I started interning at High Point University and learning how to Olympic lift and how to be a college strength coach. I would go there every day from 8 to 12 and work with their staff. You know, I lifted weights as a high school lacrosse player and things like that, but lifting weights the way that they wanted me to teach people to lift weights. And so that was a pretty cool thing. And yeah, I mean, the career just kind of just went on and on from there. And we went to Mississippi State
Yep.
as an intern, and that's where it really started kind of going towards baseball. And just seeing the SEC talent that was there from an athletic standpoint, and then what they could do on the field, and it was wild. It was special. And I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. Like I can really impact what the product on the field, even as an intern at Mississippi State, and then came back home, interned at Wake Forest for a little bit with basketball and some other sports over there, and then went to grad school at St. John's, and that's really where it
Oh
started
yeah.
more towards baseball. And Corey Mascara, talk to him. I feel like I talk about that dude all the time, and just
It's the
he's
best.
a big part of my journey. And you know, he was like, "Look, dude, you're a good coach. Like you do some really good things. Like I need you to understand the game of baseball borderline the way that he understood it." And so I would watch video with him, with Blanks, with Bone, with the entire staff up there, and just learn, what it is that they wanted, and what they were trying to do for their guys. And after that, I went to Charleston Southern, and then East Carolina and the Dodgers, man. So it's just kind of it went that way early on. Got to work with Team USA in the mix there too with Blanks, and have done that twice with the collegiate national team. And yeah, it's a pretty cool journey when I sit back and reflect on it of all the things that I was able to do. And then be a part of the Dodgers organization and in the minor leagues. And that didn't end up being what was right for our family. And we were, let's see, Emily and the boys were in Tulsa, and I was in spring training, and she's like, "Hey, this just isn't for
This
us." And
sucks.
yeah, like it just wasn't. We were in 4 different places
Yeah.
in 1 year, and there I was just ignorant to the fact that wasn't great for a family. I'm like, man, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm
we
living
get
the
to
life.
do,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're living at the beach, we're living in Emerald Isle in the off season, and
Yeah.
then at Dodger Stadium, and what was that? Late December, January, February of 1 year. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. We're living in Venice Beach, and she's like,
Yeah.
right, you're doing all that stuff, and I'm taking care of the kids.
Yeah, I'm with Hudson and Carson, and you're living the
Right.
dream. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different. So, we came back here and then started training guys out of the garage and, working with my buddies, Eric Yavarone, who's still in the big leagues with the Dodgers, Noah Huff. They run a company called Five Tool Connection, and just got to work with them and was training guys out of my garage and started consulting with colleges. And now I'm still doing that, some with those guys, some on our own. And it's a pretty cool thing to kind of look back on the last 10, 12 years of how things have come around, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, I want to take a quick break from the show to tell you guys about our friends over at Curtis Construction. They are proudly celebrating 65 years of excellence. Since 1960, Curtis Construction has been dedicated to servicing commercial roofs with quality, integrity, and unbeatable service. From replacements and restorations to repairs, inspections, and emergency services, they've got you covered. Whether you need a trusted roofing partner or want to learn more about the trade, you can visit Curtis Construction at curtiscc.com or give them a call at 252 523 1078. That's curtiscc.com or at 252 523 1078. Shout out to Kelly Casey and her team for supporting the show, and they're a huge supporter of ECU baseball as well. I appreciate you guys, and thanks for sponsoring the show. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like I said, you hit on everything. It's a crazy journey from just school hopping and then meeting each individual that has had an impact on your career at each spot. But you mentioned Mississippi State specifically in 2014, which was, I mean, the golden age of SEC baseball, you would think, with how talented all the teams were and getting to be around those guys. But St. John specifically, and you mentioned it with how awesome Corey Muscar has been, who's now the pitching coach at Wake, who's been the man for what seems like 3 or 4 years now with how good their staff's been, and Blakemeyer too. But that stop specifically, how important was St. John's? Like you said, it's getting, more to baseball specific stuff, but how important was that spot with meeting people, getting really into, hey, I think this baseball thing's for me. Like, how important was being up there to kind of set the track for the rest of your career?
Yeah, it 100% did set the track, and I think it was vital. I don't think I would be anywhere near where I'm at and been able to have the experiences that I've had without it. People talk about it. There's a song, if we can make it here, we can make it anywhere. Like Frank Sinatra, like New York, New York. Like, dude, that shit's real. Like, if you can make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere, buddy. And going from interning at Mississippi State and then being from High Point, North Carolina, to driving up to Queens, New York, and seeing the skyline for the first time and being like, what in the world am I doing? Like, I thought Charlotte was big. Like, I thought downtown Greensboro was big, and then I'm pulling up and I'm like, yo, this is not what I was expecting.
No.
And, just being there, and I mean, just talk about like relationships and the people I've met. We ended up when I came back, I figured out that I was going to intern at St. John's. I'd interned at GA at St. John's. I'd interned at High Point. The head lacrosse coach at the time, John Torpy, his uncle lived up in Queens. And so I just stopped by and was just like, hey, Torpy, like he was a big mentor of mine. Like, I just loved the way he ran the program. He started the program at High Point University, and just the way he went about things, it was awesome. So like once I figured out that's what I was doing, I was like, hey, I'm going to St. John's. This is what I'm doing. And he's like, my uncle lives in Queens. Like, let me get you his number. Like, you go up there and he'll show you around the city, and you can kind of figure out what you want to do and where you want to live. And
Yeah, that'll work.
of course, I was like, yes, please, awesome. So
Yeah.
we Emily and I, we head up there, and we get there, and they meet us for dinner, like right at the end of our block, and which was their block, but kind of the point I'm getting to. We go eat dinner the next day. Like, Emily and I are like trying to figure out where we're gonna go, how we're gonna look for a place to live, and had no idea what we were doing. And right as we're getting ready to leave, Bob, John Torpy's uncle, was like, hey, like, do you just want to live here? Like, why
I'm
don't you just
sure in
live
the most New
upstairs
York
above our
accent too. I'm sure in the most New York, like
Oh yeah,
just you
yeah,
want
yeah,
to live upstairs?
yeah. Like, you wanna live upstairs? Like we got you like, and I forget what he said, however much it was. I think it was like 1,000 a month, which was probably half of what it should
Oh
be.
yeah, for sure.
Living room, dining room, like just a full on apartment above their home. And I was like, yes, please. Like, yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly what I want
yeah.
to do. He's like, all right, go into the city, enjoy yourself, like check it out. Like just enjoy Emily being up here. So we did, we went in, we took a ride around, checked it out. We came back for dinner at their house. And he's like, right before we walked in the house, and he's like, hey, do you want her to be up here with you? We weren't engaged at the time. We were dating, and I was like, "Yeah, yes, I do. Like, I
Yes,
do
sir.
not want to
Sure,
be,
sure do.
up here by myself. Yes, I definitely want her up here." He ran a like after school care and just this whole youth organization throughout the Queens area. So Emily was working at Duke Hospital as an exercise specialist for the oncology lab. They're like doing a bunch of different research at Duke and stuff. And so he was like, "Well, how much are you making at Duke?" And so I forget what it was, but she told him. He goes, "Cool, I'll match that and then some." So like it was like
Yeah.
no change. Like you're gonna make a little bit more money up here, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And she didn't end up taking it because we didn't live together until after we got married, but we got engaged throughout that first year, and then yeah, man, like probably the first few weeks, month or whatever it was, I was there. I'm like, man, this is not the place for me. Like I'm gonna take it back home. Like, I can figure something
Yeah.
else out. Like
Yeah.
I don't know about this. And so I'm talking to Moose, and he takes me. We go get coffee, and he's like, "Look, dude, like, do you understand like the baseball program here and like how successful it is?" And I'm like, "No, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, it can't be that.
I'm from
It
North
can't be that
Carolina.
good.
Who
Like,
can? Yeah. Who cares?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's freezing cold up here. I have no
Yeah.
idea. Like the soccer field's on top of a parking deck, which the soccer team was unbelievable. They won the national championship in '96, and the women's soccer team's unreal. So like, I'm like, no, dude, I don't really understand. So like, he walks me through all of that stuff, and talking with blanks, and then being able to travel with them and run things, and do so many different things at such a high level. I was meeting with the AD. We had no snacks or fueling station for our athletes. Like, was able to talk to the AD and get like chocolate half gallons of chocolate milk and honey stingers and like fruit from the cafeteria, and that was like a huge win. You thought I cured cancer for some of these kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
it was unbelievable. So like little things like that to where, yeah. Then blanks would give me the credit card for the team, and I would go to BJ's, which is like Sam's Club up there, and get like Uncrustables. And I bought a little freezer. I'm throwing them in the little freezer, and
They're getting
or
out there like,
they're
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
this tiny locker room, and they're eating Uncrustables in the locker room. So like it was, yeah, man, it was pretty impactful just from like betting on myself and like seeing it through and it being hard and it was tough. But yeah, like on the baseball side, like we would go and yeah, I mean we were in a regional final at Oklahoma State my first year there against Arkansas, and Andrew Benintendi's up there, and we had a left-hander Alex Katz who's just ripping sliders, and yeah, they ended up beating us, in the regional final. But like it was a pretty cool ride. It was a pretty cool ride. It was actually pretty similar to what Wilmington did to us in 2018 is what we did to Oklahoma State. So it was a pretty wild turn of events. But just being there, and some of these kids have never played in a stadium like that, and just the talent that was out there was pretty special.
Another one of our great sponsors is Tiebreakers. Tiebreakers is open every day at 11 a.m. and is the best place to watch your favorite sports while enjoying the best wings in town. They also offer sandwiches, appetizers, cold beer, and more. Follow Tiebreakers on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates. Tiebreakers is in Greenville at Bell's Fork on Greenville Boulevard and in downtown Winterville on Railroad Street. Thank you, Bram and Tracy Anderson, for supporting the show. Tiebreakers has always been a great spot that a lot of the guys, when I played, would go and hang out and eat. The service was always great. The food was top notch, and there were always sports on, which was great. Shout out to you guys for being supporters of the show, local and ECU athletics. But thank you guys for supporting the show. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, it's certainly full circle. I mean, when you look back at it and stuff, just how like similar the timelines are with everything that you've done and how weird it is. But like you said, it's about those experiences and those relationships that you create that you can further like use down the road with you being able to work with Wake now. You wouldn't have been able to probably work with Wake or have as good of a relationship as with them without knowing Corey beforehand. So it's like you said, it's one of those things. But after St. John's, you head to Charleston Southern, like you mentioned, and then you make the jump to ECU. But what was, I guess, that jump? Obviously, with your tenure at ECU was a little longer. what was that jump like? Did you know CG beforehand? Like, what was the decision like for you and Emily? Obviously, you were trying to start a family. What was that like?
Yeah, good question. So at Charleston Southern, it was me and one other guy. That he's the head strength coach at Liberty now, Chad Scott. Great guy. We and when I lived with him for the first couple of weeks and his family, we're training football together. Like in the summer, we're training football, women's soccer, and whoever else was in town. So you're running everybody together out in the football field. I have women's soccer doing like dumbbell rows on this picnic table by the pond, and I'm like, hey, ladies, make sure we're facing the pond. And like that may sound crazy to some people, but it's because there's damn alligators in the pond. I'm like, hey, let's not have our backs to the pond while we're ripping rows over here. Let's make sure we can see them things coming.
Choose my name off, yeah.
But yeah, man, like such an awesome experience. Like great people. I knew Blaine Kinsley, who's with the Cubs now, who was in the role that I ended up taking after he left. But I saw something pop up, and it said East Carolina assistant strength and conditioning coach. So I called Blaine and I was like, hey man, like, do you know anything about this? Like, would be awesome to make my way back to Greenville and be a part of the strength and conditioning staff at East Carolina. And he was like, yeah, it's my job. I'm leaving. And I was like,
is that right?
Is that so?
Yeah.
And so like, literally as that happened, like, I had worked with the collegiate national team, worked with Paul Maneri and Elliot Avon and so many just awesome coaches, Rich Hill, just so many other guys that we could sit here and name. But I called in every favor and everything that I could for people to call CG and got an interview and got to talk to Coach C and Coach Connors and kind of the rest was history.
Yeah, with how hard-headed he was back then, I'm sure it wasn't like a, hey, can I come coach you guys? And it wasn't like, yeah, sure. It was like, no, you need to have some track record, brother. But that's funny that it was like you said, you had to call in some favors from some notable guys like Avon and Maneri are like Hall of Fame names in college baseball.
For sure. Yeah. I called everybody that worked with the collegiate national team. I had Blanks call him. Ed Blankmeyer's a Hall of Famer and just an unbelievable person. So, the people that I had calling definitely held some weight and, for where I was in my career was just super thankful to have that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Stepping aside from baseball for a second, being able to join on staff, host, what was it? Technically three regionals. You were part of those teams. But starting a family, I think, is a big thing for every dad or husband or whatever situation, whether you're working in athletics or not, but especially as a coach, it's something that you don't take lightly. But starting a family in Greenville, nonetheless, where it's kids are welcome, and if you don't play baseball, you're wrong. So it's one of those things where what was starting a family like with obviously Hudson and Carson in Greenville, and then moving on from there. But what was that like?
Yeah, it was really, really cool. It was really special. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment right there off of Trafalgar Square. So, right there, right behind Bagel Man. So we lived over there. And then we, it was 1-bedroom apartment, me, Emily, a new baby, and 2 dogs. So it was like, hey, not a whole lot of room in there, but, we did our thing and, started whenever I had time, which wasn't a whole lot, but went out and played golf at the Aiken Golf and Country Club. And I want to say, I can't remember which exact series it was, but we came back from a series, didn't play all that well. So it was pretty stressful. I think Emily and Hudson were back here visiting her parents, and I just went out there and played golf by myself, and I saw a for sale sign on number 15, and there was a house there. And so, of course, it said for sale. So I called the guy, and I'm like, hey, would love to come look at it. And me and Emily and little Hudson get out and we go look at it, and we're talking to the people, and it goes under contract. So we didn't get it, and probably a week or two later, I'm back out there on number 9, and our realtor called me and was like, "Hey, it fell through. Like, do you guys still want it?" And so we were like, "Yeah, absolutely,
sure do." Yeah.
So we got that house, 911 Country Club Drive, right there out there in Ayden, and man, it was a pretty wild thing, and in looking back on it, like a God thing for us to be able to be there. And fast forward to COVID, like that's where we were during COVID. Carson was born, both of them were born in Chapel Hill. Emily has like a rare swelling condition. It's called HAE. So basically any part of the body can swell at any point in time. So that just makes her pregnancies high risk. So the boys were delivered in Chapel Hill. we were able to walk out on the 15th fairway whenever we wanted, during COVID, and chip balls and do
Beautiful.
whatever. And man, it was just, another couple hundred yards was the pool and the clubhouse. It was, when we were there, I was under 30. So it was like $75 a month to be a member of the
Yeah.
golf course and the
Make that
pool
deal.
and the whole country club. So like, it was such an awesome time. And the backyard was beautiful. We had Hudson's, 3-year-old birthday party out there. We took a couch, dude. We put it on our back porch. It was DG was there, Palumbo was there, Dietrichs were there. Like everybody that was a part of our organization from ECU baseball was there, and we had water balloons. Kids are throwing water balloons at Cliff and Jeff, and like, everybody that knows JP, everybody that knows JP knows how energetic he is, and like how
Oh
he's
yeah.
like he can still go out there and pick it with the boys at
Just turning
on the
double
left side.
plays with water
Yeah,
balloons. Yeah.
and like he's just out there like doing his thing and having a great time, man. It was just so much fun. And CG gave Hudson a stuffed animal. He calls it's a dog stuffed animal. He calls a doggy that he still has. He's 7 years old. He still carries it around. Like most people don't know that, and it's a pretty cool thing, man. Just like being able to raise a family in Aden and Greenville and do it during that time when nobody had any idea what was going to happen in the world, but we were in a safe place. We started growing a garden. Like we just got to do a lot of really cool things with our kids and together as a family, at an early age.
Yeah, no, I mean, that time affected a lot of people a lot of different ways, but it's good that you took it and turned it into a positive, especially with kids too, where with a team and a coaching staff with other kids, and it's like, how do we kind of navigate this? But you turn it into a good thing. And Dietz and JP will be on the show here in a couple of weeks, so I'm sure they'll have a lot more stories to tell too. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, it is a little it's a fraternity. I mean, there was this past weekend was Easter, and I was on Instagram looking around, and I follow AK's wife, and Easton, one of our managers, dressed up as the Easter bunny and was going around like hanging out with Deacon, AK's son, and Scotty, Henry Lartie's daughter, and I'm like, that is whole because and it of course like AK and JP are on the porch like sipping a beer, like laughing at him, and it's one of those things where everybody gets along great, and it's hanging out, and it's what makes a good culture, the way that ECU baseball is for sure.
No doubt, man. And talking about Easton, like we got an invitation to him and Julian's wedding in just, I think, November of this coming year in Greensboro. And it's
Greensboro.
like,
Oh yeah.
man, like that's so cool. And just being able to like, for us being able to make the relationships with people, no matter what their role was and is in that organization, like it's a testament to, number one, the people, but just the culture from the staff side, and how it was really an us against the world mentality in my eyes of we're doing this together, and like how can we make each other better, challenge each other, but also take care of each other in a way that you don't really get to experience many places.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're spot on. And you made a lot of memories. Like I said, you hosted 3 regionals, you coached some freaking studs, whether it's Trey, whether it's Gavin, Norby, and I mean, there's the clown show that was our pitching staff in the few years that you were there, whether it's Smitty or Sam Lanier or whoever else. But the memories you made were awesome. And like you said with Hudson's Bear, it's lifetime stuff that you never forget. But in the decision that was made in, I guess, the winter of 2020, early 2021, what was the decision like? I can only imagine how tough it was. I remember we were all sitting down in the pitching door. I remember it vividly. You were standing up at the front of the room. You were obviously emotional, and you were like, "Hey, this is what I think's best for me and my family at this point. I'm going to go be a part of the Dodgers organization." But what was that move like? What was the decision like? Past the emotional stuff, I'm sure you were super pumped. Like, it's a great opportunity that doesn't come around very often.
Yeah, man. It was tough, and CG has said this and probably still says this, but like when you have success and you do well, like people come trying to get your people, and that happened to him and probably still does, and it happened to me a lot, and the rest of our staff. I mean, it was a group of people that did things the right way, and man, it felt like every semester somebody was calling me and offering me something, and it was I mean, professionally and in college baseball, like just all people were wanting me to take jobs over the phone that I didn't wanted to meet them for. It was just a whole thing that kind of led up to that, to where you know had some talks with the administration about some things that I wanted to do, and how could I stay in Greenville long term, and just it didn't really necessarily work out the way that I had hoped it would. And it was, one of those things where, I was 30 years old, had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and it was like I feel like I kind of need to go do this. And it was the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's one of the, if not the most successful professional organizations on planet Earth, and to be able to go do that and see what professional baseball was like, and if that's what I wanted to do, and really just talking to the staff and to the director Brandon McDaniel, and the rest of the staff of how they do things, how they run things. It was clear to me that I didn't know as much as I thought I did as a performance coach, and about the overall development of baseball players.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what I knew, and I knew my experiences, and I knew college baseball, but I didn't know what it took and what it takes to do it at the highest level.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a challenge for me, and wanted to kind of see that through. And so that was that was the thought process. It was very, very, very hard to leave East Carolina. Obviously, the people. I went to school there. Emily went to school there. We met there. We were in classes together. Started dating after college, but I mean, it was both of our kids were born there. Like at that moment in time, we had lived in that area more than anywhere else besides our parents' home. So like it was a really tough decision. It was our first home on the golf course. Like, yeah, Eden Golf and Country Club, but a golf course nonetheless.
Hey,
It was, and it
people
was.
need to put more respect on Aiden Golf Country. That
I
place has gotten a
know.
lot of my money,
I still have my member tag on my golf bag whenever
as
I
it should be.
absolutely get out there and play. But yeah, man, it was super super challenging and emotional, and it was one of those things where like you don't really know how to handle it, but it's like, hey, this is what we're doing, and this is what I feel like long term is best for us. And getting there, when I first got there was COVID was still going on, so I was working with 6 guys from the rehab standpoint. So I would come in, I believe, like 3 to 4 hours a day, and we were in this one area of Camelback Ranch that wasn't the main area, but we were doing rehab stuff. And Clayton Beater, Jimmy Lewis, Kyle Hurt, Brock Stewart, a couple other guys. But I mean, 3 of those guys are now big leaguers, and just being able to be a part of that and learn from them. And it was no different from when I was at St. John's, like learning. The players also taught me a lot. So like we were talking about St. John's earlier, and like Thomas Hackemer, Chris McCormick, or Ryan McCormick, like all these different guys that were able to teach me the game and what they needed. Like it was pretty similar to professional level. Diego Cartaya was he was the first player I worked with in pro ball. And just making again, to your point earlier, making those relationships and understanding what they need, and then understanding the Dodger system and how I fit into that was unbelievable. And it was super special. And I got to, kind of lay out some of my passions with VBT and some different things. And yeah, I mean, it was a really, really cool experience when I first got there. It was one of those where it's like you don't really know what to expect, but it was one that I felt like we had to do for our family. And I'm glad we did, because we wouldn't be, in the situation we are now. But yeah, very, very tough to leave East Carolina.
I want to take a quick break from the interview to tell you about our friends over at Crush Vodka. It is the official vodka of the ECU Pirates, but Crush Vodka is made right here in downtown Greenville. It is 7 times distilled and twice filtered over coconut shell carbon. Crush Vodka is also gluten-free and sugar-free. You can find bottles of the regular vodka, orange, vanilla, cherry, grapefruit, all great flavors in ABC stores throughout Pitt County. It is coming soon also to all ABC stores in the state. 100% of the profits also go from their regular Crush Vodka donated to the Team Boneyard, obviously the supporters and the big NIL collective for ECU Athletics. But big thank you to Brett Oliverio for his support of the show. Crush and Sub Talks has been a great part of the community, and we appreciate you guys for your support of the show and, of course, ECU Athletics. Yeah, you hit on a little bit about like the individualized part of it, where especially in pro ball, it can be from indie ball all the way up to the top. It's so like individualized in terms of it's not cookie cutter. It's different for everybody. Some stuff works for this guy, and I think with you learning of that stuff, where a lot of the stuff at ECU was like starters are on the same plan, starters are on the same live plans, same treatment plan. All this stuff is the same because success leaves clues in people's minds, and hey, if it works for everybody. But as you get older, bodies start, wearing down a little bit, minds go different places and want to work on different things. I think it was a cool experience and just talking to people like Spivey or Gavin or whoever else, but it being so individualized in terms of I'm going to do my own thing. The other starter that's throwing tomorrow is going to do his thing, and I'm going to tell you all about it because you can learn from that, like you said, with how to handle that and how the Dodgers system and your mindset and your theology of it fit into what they need and all that stuff.
Yeah, man, it was really cool, and it was one of those things to where like, I was talking with somebody about this the other day. It's like when we did, hip mobility or ankle mobility or whatever the case may be, it was like, well, everybody's doing hurdles, and it was like, well, we're trying to, mobilize the hip, which in theory makes sense, but once you start diving a little bit deeper and doing some assessments and learning things at a higher level and doing things a little bit differently, you understand that, and it was probably just where I was in my career as well. And, it's not one person or one organization's like fault per se, but it was kind of where I was as well. And, you learn like, hey, like you could be doing somebody harm if you're mobilizing a joint or a segment that needs stability. So like just understanding what it is that you're doing and everything that you do affects the byproduct, which is the product on the field.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're spot on. And we'll get into like the individualized stuff a little bit more here in a little bit, but want to finish up kind of your journey a little bit. In 2022, you mentioned earlier that it wasn't working for your family, and it was time to come back home, back east. And you join on Five Tool Connection out of your garage. You work with a bunch of guys in the High Point area. You work with Bristol a bunch. Bristol Carter, who was at ECU, is now at Auburn. The Ways were in the garage a ton. There were other guys too around the Triad area, but you got, the Wakes, the High Points with Joey Hammond, App State, Deets with Cal State. Like you got all these teams to buy in and work with you. What was at that time? Obviously, it's broadened out and became this big thing now with the Ghost Lab. But what was at that time out of your garage working with them like and providing them with the stuff that they needed?
Yeah, yeah, it was awesome. And again, it started at Wake and started with Moose. He Cam Manassi, he was working with Cam and trying to get Cam to do a couple things, and he's like, man, I just can't. His body's not doing what I want it to do, and so I went over there and did a quick assessment with him and just watched the way his body moved, and he started throwing the baseball, and he's like looking at us like, oh my arms never felt like this, and
Yeah, I've heard this
I'm
story.
like,
This is awesome.
I'm like, yo, Moose, let him throw a bullpen. He's like, no, he's throwing tomorrow. And I'm like, dude, just let him throw. And so Cam talks his way into throwing a bullpen. It's like cool, like 10 fastballs, whatever he's throwing it. And Moose is like, whatever, spin one. So he spins one, and it's electric. And he's like, cool, just throw your bullpen now. Um, that's kind of how it started. And then being able to deliver that service and work with Noah and Eric with 5TC and understand what it is that they did well, what it is that I did well, and like bringing those two things together, and then just providing the service that we said we were going to provide. And that one thing led to another, and then Kermit Smith at App calls me, and I forget what I was doing. I think I was training somebody, and he leaves a message, and it's like, hey, this is Kermit Smith, the head baseball coach at App State, and I'm like, what in the
Is
world's
that
going
right?
on? Like, I'm like, huh, interesting. So like then we go through and we start working with them and get working with Deeds, and yeah, man, like I'm going to be up in Chapel Hill next week assessing George Mason on Carolina's field. So like I got things rolling a little bit, and kind of doing some things without 5TC a little bit, but also we still have App and Fullerton together, which is a pretty cool thing, and be able to stay connected to those guys is a lot of fun.
Take another quick break from the show to tell you guys about Caroline Cook Homes. Caroline is committed to helping you find your dream home, selling your property for the best possible price, and providing top-notch real estate services in Morehead City, Atlantic Beach, Greenville, and Winterville. She is dedicated to providing personalized attention with expert guidance to meet all of your real estate needs. Whether you are a first-time homebuyer or an experienced investor, Caroline is here to help you navigate the complex and ever-changing real estate market. She provides herself on local knowledge, professionalism, and commitment to exceeding your expectations. Explore her website over at CarolineCookHomes.com to learn more about the services Caroline provides and the properties she has to offer. You can contact her again today to start your real estate journey at CarolineCookHomes.com, ccookrealtor@yahoo.com, or at 252-341-1992. Again, that's CarolineCookHomes.com, ccookrealtor@yahoo.com, or at 252-341-1992. Caroline, thanks for supporting the show. Yeah, no, it was cool to see you kind of join on and get super immersed in that stuff, especially out of a garage is like it's just so like makeshift, and the fact that you made it work and up like show up as well as it did, and have the buy-in from high school kids that were just like, all right, leap of faith, here we go.
Yeah,
But 2023, you start the lab, full facility, travel teams, taking that leap of faith and having a staff and people put their faith in you is not something I take for granted for sure. But I feel like at the point when you started it, it was not only about having like the technology and the pull from, the namesake of everywhere you've been and the staff that you had, but how important was it to have the people around you that actually understand how to use the stuff that you had and apply it and the knowledge that you could give towards hitters and pitchers and stuff?
yeah, it was huge. Not only was it important, from the delivery aspect and from us, like from the client experience and people getting again what we're selling, what we say we'll provide. But two people specifically, Ryder and Wash, like those two guys know me just about as good as anybody. So they knew what I wasn't good at, number one, which was very, very important to me. And they knew the ways that they could complement the business. And Washer's in here fixing stuff and just doing whatever needs to be done. And Ryder's Ryder, and he's got his personality, and he's just talking to people and getting lessons and just building the business to then where I could come in and be myself, and I didn't have to try to be somebody else because they had that part
Right.
handled, and I could just, hey, this is what I'm really good at, here's how I can help. And if that's what people wanted to do, great, we did it. If not, I think that's okay too. And then they probably ended up coming back a little bit later. So it was a really cool way to start it, and I'm very thankful that those two guys specifically were here in the early days, because again, you learn so much about yourself when you're trying, like, running a business is way harder than any coaching job I've ever had. And trying to understand certain things. And then you put my mom passing away in the middle of all of that, almost a year, like this past August. So like they were able to pick up the pieces when I didn't know what was going on. We ended up
Had to
living
check out. Yeah.
Yeah, we ended up living with her, and helping take care of her until the end. And it was before she had to go into a facility to live somewhere, because we couldn't take care of her. But yeah, I mean, those guys just legitimately having my back at the highest level possible when I was probably the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life, with everything into the facility. Everything we had was riding on it, and me not being able to function all at my highest level at all times because I'm trying to figure out certain things and then handle stuff for mom and just
Family stuff. Yeah.
not with it. Yeah, my dad had already passed, so it's like she had a terminal disease. Like we knew she was going to die, so it's like trying to deal with all that stuff. Like it was tough. But for those two guys specifically to be here and to have my back day in and day out, and it couldn't have been more special.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about in the past, and I've heard you talk about it on other podcasts and stuff too, of how important like the relationship is of just player to coach, how important developing it is, and like building it up rather than just it being so transactional. But if you're not cool with them when you're at ECU and they're like, this guy's a dick, like I don't like the strength coach, he's treating me like blah blah blah. But how close you guys were and how much your relationship bounced off each other and how cool you guys were. I mean, you coached Ryder for 2, 3, 4 years, same thing with Washer. Like, I don't know if they join you and they don't know if they take that leap of faith and help you out. But the fact that you guys were as close as you were is what made the train roll, especially when you had to check out for more important things at the time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like being that coach in college baseball, like the performance coach, the strength and conditioning coach, it's different than any other coach. It's different than the head coach. It's different than the hitting coach. Different than the pitching coach. Like I'm not controlling playing time. I'm not controlling if Wash is hitting in the 4 hole or if Ryder's starting on the mound if he's playing shortstop. Like my role was to support the coaching staff. Like that was
Mhm.
my role. And my way that I did that was like developing relationships with the players. And I mean, just like any relationship, there's ups and downs, and there's things where you have to explain things to 18 to 22-year-olds of why we're doing certain things and how it's going to help us be successful. And I think that's what I excelled at, was being able to, kind of meet guys where they're at and just make a relationship. And then it's like, okay, like we have a relationship, but we also have shit to do. Like we got
Yeah.
stuff to do, and like this is all well and good, but like we're here to do a job, and we're here to to develop and try to win college baseball games. So I think my ability to kind of understand that and be an outlet for guys at certain times, and also like kick them in the ass when they need it, like is important. I just did a podcast with Carson with Wiz and Hunt the other day, and we talked about like when all that stuff went down for him and like how like I was one of the first people to reach out and I had no idea. But he's like, yeah, I mean, I would come in your office and just shut the door and talk about life stuff. And it's like that stuff's important, and you don't always you can't do that with everybody, and that doesn't mean I did that with everybody because that's not real. Like you have certain relationships with certain people, and that's the cool part of the human experience is you don't know when or how you're going to connect with people, but I think it's really important, and it only leads to really cool things down the road.
Another one of our great sponsors is Brandon Manning over at Farm Bureau. From his days as a Pitt Community College Bulldog to his years at ECU, Brandon Manning bleeds purple and gold in anything local sports. Born and raised in Pitt County and your local Farm Bureau insurance agent in Winterville, Brandon can set you up with auto, home, life, and health insurance. All you got to do is just give him a call at 252-531-1812. That's 252-531-1812. Thank you, Brandon, for your support on the show and being an avid ECU baseball supporter. Your fandom doesn't go unnoticed. We are glad that you are a Pirate and are so grateful for everything that you do in the community, helping the kids learn how to play the game the right way and being around for all of the games. But shout out to Brandon Manning for supporting the show. Appreciate you, Brandon. No, it's funny that you say that because I remember I was having this was, I guess, the fall of 20. Yeah, fall of 20, because it was one of those I was having a really bad lift. I think I was like skipping reps or something stupid like that. And I think Cooch had talked to me a couple times. He's like, hey, like, cut it out. Those were not his words, but it was essentially,
Right.
hey, stop.
Yeah. It's enough out of you.
Yeah. And it happened a couple more times. And then you pulled me into your office and you're like, all right, like, what are you doing? Like, why are we doing this? And I think I broke down a little bit because there was stuff going on with my mom. And it was one of those things where you weren't like super dismissive of like, hey, like you weren't calling me in to rip me. You were calling like clearly something's wrong. And we talked. And again, I don't think if you and I don't have that relationship, I think that interaction and the way everything goes is a lot different because you calmed me down. You went outside. You're like, hey, here's what's going on. Like, go easy on him a little bit. And it was one of those things where you kept it moving and let him kind of do his thing. And I don't think many people understand that aspect, and this kind of leads into my next question and next point, which I'm really curious to hear your opinion on. But I think it's that relationship that you have with any coach is really important. But um, I've been curious to hear a lot of people's opinion on this, but you're specifically just because of where you've been and what you've been able to do. But with like the way training and player development has been, and how technology has evolved with whether it's TrackMan or force plates or movement tests and stuff like that, um, it's I think it's taken away, and this is my opinion. I think it's taken away from the art of it all. Like it's so technology driven, and all the stuff you do is so transactional. But how does it take away from the coach player relationship? And I think I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, just because of I've worked out at places where I've seen kids where it's like they just look at the iPad and then keep moving. They don't ask anybody's opinion. They don't ask any, like it's the way scouting is too now, where it's you look at stats, they have a great OBP War X whatever, and it's like, all right, yeah, no, it's good, let's sign him. It's like you're completely missing the passing the eye test stuff. So what is the technology? How has it helped? How has it hindered? And how has it affected the relationship between coach and player?
Yeah. I think that's a great question, Danny. And I think the art of coaching, that's the art of coaching and the relationship side of things. That's what's allowed me to be as successful as I've been. To be able to like have things written down in a plan. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but there was countless times when I was there, I would have plans for certain things, and then we would change them on the fly based on what was going on that day or
Yeah,
whatever
no,
it
for
was.
sure.
And like, that was like, was and still is the human element of it. And that's what makes me different. That's what makes elite coaches different, is being able to see the art of it all and understand that a perfect program doesn't exist. A perfect program exists in your brain and on paper, but as soon as there's games, practice, girlfriends, family, travel, like all that stuff goes out the window. So yeah, the art of it's super special. But as far as like to your point about the technology, like it gives you it can give you the opportunity to dive into more things if you allow it to, or it can allow you to just, to your point a second ago, like, hey, this guy rides it at 24. Like, if he throws at the top of the zone, he's not going to be able to be hit. Well, maybe.
Is that the only pitch he has? Like, does he have a
Maybe.
crappy? Does he have a shitty off speed? Like,
Right.
who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. If it's 98 with ride, but the guys are teeing off on it, like,
Why?
gonna be tough. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, the metrics are awesome and being able to see it's great, but the ball don't lie and the hitters will tell you everything you need to know. And then, vice versa. Like if it's the best left-handed swing or whatever swing you wanna say, like, hey, this kid's unbelievable. He can do it all. He can hit the ball backside and pull, pull
Bat
side
speed's
power,
great. Metrics are
whatever.
good. Yeah.
That's all well and good, but there's certain things that happens when guys step in between the lines, and they have it or they don't, and sometimes they do, and then sometimes they falter. So like, there's so many more components to being successful as an athlete, especially in the game of baseball, than just be able to hit the ball 110 off the bat or to spin a slider at 3,000 or 100 with 24. Like it's there's a lot of different things that go into it, and to your point, when people coach to the iPad and people coach to the metrics, like, they're missing the most important thing is there's a human and there's a soul inside of this thing and this vessel that's a human body. And man, like, this may be a little bit weird, but when you see people that actually do pass and their soul leaves, like, it's the most unbelievable thing. And people that, like, understanding, about the Lord and how he does what he does when he's creating us. Like, it's the most evident thing I've ever seen in my life that there is a God, that there is the ability for our souls. Our body's just a vessel. So what I'm
Right.
trying to say is, like, being able to relate to that person and, like, understand who they are and make a real relationship. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters in this world to me. And, like, being able to impact people and teach people and give them the skill set that they're going to need to be able to run their families and run their lives. Like, that's what I'm all about. And I've been able to do that through strength conditioning and baseball. So like, that's
In the simplest form, it's leaving it better than you found it.
100%, 100%. And empowering people to pick up and lead and do the things they need to do when the people that led them are no longer here. Like, it's
Yeah.
a pretty simple thing, and it's not easy. It's hard, but having those real relationships and those real conversations, like, if you don't have a real relationship, you can't have a real conversation because people are going to get offended now more than ever. Like,
That's right.
you're getting offended, like, then we didn't really have a real relationship anyways. Like, you want me to tell you the truth, but you're offended, so you didn't want the truth. So
That's right.
yeah, that's a little sidebar of just some of those things, but I think it's pretty important.
No, you're spot on. I mean, I've talked to a lot of the spiritual conversations I had with guys on last season was, whether it's CG with how much he's changed with his relationship with the Lord and how it's just completely changed the trajectory of his life. Like, I think a lot of things, if a lot of things go the different way, and I hate that it all relates back to baseball, but like, I think if we go to Omaha in 22, I don't think he's where he is in his walk. I think if ECU wins the 2017 conference tournament, I don't think he is where he is in his walk. Like, certain things happen to where they are where they are now. Like, if, for example, like if AK doesn't end up taking the job here and it stays at La Tech, and he, like, who knows? It's certain things that happen for certain things happen for a reason. But going back to what you were saying about the competitive aspect of it, I was thinking, like, you don't have to be the most talented player to be really, really good. Like, Cam Coleman and Matt Bridges, like, didn't have like electric stuff, like first round type stuff, but God, did they give a shit and did they want to win? Like, yeah, Bridgie had a good slider, Cam had a good heater, but like at the end of the day, like they did not care what it took. They wanted to go out there and win. Like Joey Barini, like, by no means had a good arm, by no means was like super talented, but when he came up with a big moment, same thing with Hoof. They're gonna get to get the job done. And it's the compete factor that is always hidden behind the metrics of whatever it is nowadays, that it kind of sucks because it's taking like you said, the human vessel aspect of it. Of they have other stuff going on, they have lives, they have parents, they have girlfriends, they have school, they have all this stuff. So I'm glad they're on the same page for that.
Yeah,
Basically.
and yeah, and for sure. And it's like, it's literally, man, like, when we would step off the bus, like, if it was in Chapel Hill, Raleigh, Clearwater, didn't matter who we were playing, like, it was to me, like, it felt like y'all are about to get your ass beat, whoever y'all are, and like, we're here. And shoot, we played Carolina on Friday night at our place. Trey pitched the gym 2-1. We lose on Saturday in Durham, and then we go out there and Wash hits a grand slam in the first, and it's like, hey, like
We're here.
we beat them 12-0. Like we're here, we're everywhere. So like it was
Yeah.
that's the culture, and that's the environment that it felt like. Is like, did we have like on paper like the first round picks and all that stuff that everybody else did? Like
A
probably
few,
not.
but
But
not
yeah,
over the
yeah. But
top.
like,
Yeah.
but did we have the desire? Did we outwork everybody? Did we do things at a high level? Like, yeah, we did. And CG says it all the time. The game knows. Like the game knew. And like when it was those kids and players' time to shine, like they did.
It showed up.
They did. Like Bridgie would be like doing this, coming off the mound. All it's like, this is my like. Yeah, it was just special, man. Like the way those kids would go do stuff, and when Bridgie would walk out there, you thought the game was over. Like it didn't matter when it was, and he was on the mound for our first super regional win in program history at Texas Tech the year before I got there. And it's like
Right.
every time he'd run out on the mound, I would get chills and I'd yell, "Be an MF for Bridgie!" Like, and I'd be yelling it as loud as I could, like it was because that's who he was, and like it fired me up and it gave me chills. Like gives me chills thinking about it, but like that's
Hmm.
like that's what it was, man. That's who we were, and that's like if you were going to come to Greenville, if we were going to go somewhere, like you were getting everything we had. You were getting everything we had for as long as it took for us to either win the game or we Hartle talked about this. So I did a podcast with him, Josh Hartle. He talked about like their Omaha team and how, he's like, we never felt like we got beat in 23. We just felt like we ran out of time, and that's literally what it felt like.
That's awesome.
That's literally what it felt like every year. There were some times where we'd get boat raced and we got beat pretty good in Louisville, but like, we weren't out of very many games. You could probably count on one hand the games that
Yeah.
got out of hand, and like that's the game, that's life. But it literally felt like, hey, we have enough arms, we have enough guys on the bench, like from an offensive standpoint, to where like if we have enough time, like we're gonna win. And that's just a testament to how we did everything. It was you competed everything, and then you go in there and you lay it on the line and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, we're in Nashville and we're facing Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter and we lose 2 1-run games or one 1-run game and another was a 2-run game, whatever it was. Like that's not normal. Like you do that just because we have Gavin and Wiz. That doesn't happen everywhere. And it's bought in from the second you start doing team stuff in August all the way till it ends in June because of the fact that, I mean, it's not a secret that we've had 4 or 5 guys the last 6 years, whatever it is, break the appearances record in pitching because they want to be out there because they know they want to compete and win, whether it's Sailor, whether it's Mayhew, whether it's Spivey, whether it's me, whatever it is. Same thing on the offensive side. Like, I mean, Carter Cunningham played every game last year. Like, that's not like that's because guys want to be out there and win. We don't need an off day. I want to win.
Yep.
And I know our best chance of winning is me being out there. So it's the way it goes. And it leads into the next point a little bit too with the way that the landscape has changed with the portal and NIL and all that stuff. But you work with a lot of college athletes in the off season, whether it's winter stuff or in the off season as well, but high school athletes specifically too in the area. But have you seen, at least out of the guys that you work with, a shift in focus from individual performance to team performance, especially with the way it is now with NIL? And it's like, oh, you need to get my money, or I need to go to like the best college so I can get paid. Like, is it more individualized now that it has been before? Or is it still the same a little bit?
I haven't run into guys like just searching to go get paid. Kind of some of the things that I've been trying to explain to kids and families and stuff is just like now more. It's always been this way, but like go where you can play, go where you can get on the field. But I think now more than ever, with the way things are with JUCO right now, and who knows, that may change again. But like just the rules and the landscape of college baseball, and like it's kind of, for me, it's like a microcosm of life. Like if you don't like where you're at, like if you don't like anything, like cool, play better. Like if you don't like your job, like
It's true.
go play better. Like if you think you should be at East Carolina, but you're at Guilford Technical Community College,
It's
like
the truth, dude.
play better. Like go do that, put in the work, and
Yeah.
do the things that you need to go do that. And it's almost going to be rewarded if you get 4 years after going to play too. So yeah, like go do what you need to do and take it into your own hands. And if you don't know how to do it, ask somebody for help and either put up
Seriously.
or shut up. It's very simple.
All of the high school kids and college kids that complain about playing time or like I'm getting screwed, I'm not, it's coach's fault, it's not mine. please listen to what BG just said because I'm telling you guys, Deets said it from the second I stepped on in COVID. The game knows, like it's gonna come back whether you work hard or not. You don't like being on the bench, play better. It's that simple. It's nobody's fault but yours.
Yeah.
You don't like. I mean, hey, yeah, you might get one at bat a week, and it's gonna be 30 degrees in March. It's not it. It's not his fault for putting you in that position. You got to play better.
Yeah.
That's the way it
Sorry about it.
goes.
Yeah.
Want to give another quick shout out to another sponsor of ours that is Randy and Mary Ellen Cole. I want to give a big thank you to you guys. They are two people that bleed purple and gold and love ECU athletics and supporting the athletes in them. I truly appreciate you guys supporting the show and being a big part of what ECU athletics and ECU baseball has going forward in terms of NIL, fan support, being at every game, packing out the stands. But if you get a chance to see Mary Ellen or Randy out in the community or at one of the games, be sure to give them a big shout out, big thank you for their support of the show, and of course, ECU baseball and ECU athletics.
Sorry about it. And just like really understand that, like, yeah, should everybody aspire to play Division I baseball? Yeah, I think you should. I think you should aspire to be the greatest, player you can be and person you can be and all of those things. But just because you don't get there day one doesn't mean it's a failure. Like, you still have a chance to play the game. Like, you still have a chance to do things the way you want to do it. I mean, look at what you're doing right now. Like, would you rather be an affiliated ball or in AA or AAA? Like, yeah, stupid question. Of course you would. But you're still playing the game. You get a chance to go do the things that you love and compete at a high level, and it's up to you. Like, you go out there and shove. Like, somebody will pick up the phone, and it is what it is. Like, I think just people feeling sorry for themselves and thinking that somebody's going to come change their circumstance for them is probably the biggest issue. But that's not real life. Again, kind of, to the things I was talking about earlier, like, both of my parents are passed now, and it's up to me. Like, I have my wife, I have my kids, I have my, aunts and uncles and like my in-laws and stuff. But like, the two people that brought me into this world are no longer in this world. So it's like, I don't have the ability just to sit there and feel sorry for myself. I have several business to run and a family to take care of. So like, if I sit there and, oh, poor me, like, I'm letting
Nobody's gonna feel bad for you.
Yeah, no one's gonna feel bad for you, number one, and then I'm letting other people down as a man, and that's not who I was raised to be. That's just not it. So
That's right.
yeah, it is what it is. You don't like the way the business is going? Cool, make it better. You don't like you don't like pitching and on Tuesday in the fourth inning?
Yeah.
Cool, whatever.
Up 10, down 10, not my fault.
Yeah, sorry about it. Go get better. Like, maybe learn how to spin a breaking ball. I don't know. Like, but there's certain things to where, like, yeah, the NIL stuff, like, I don't really see a lot of that stuff, just because, like, the kids that I do work with, like, I just try to like encourage them, hey, go where you can play and go where you're really desired and go be the best you can at that level, and don't worry about whatever else is going to happen. Just like, in college baseball, like, you can't worry about, and then the draft comes every year. Like, if you're a junior or if you're, a high school kid, like, is it going to be in the back of your mind? Of course it is. And people are like, hey, I'm going to put it completely out of my mind. Like, kudos to you. I don't know many people that realistically can, but just in allowing the day-to-day work and like focusing on what you can focus on and being the best version of that side of things day in and day out, the results take care of themselves. And talk about like our faith and stuff like that. Like, that's something that I've struggled with, and I've talked about it openly. Like, there's been times where I've done great with my faith and times where, like, push God away and stuff like that. But if you do have that faith and believe in God, like, story's already written anyway, so it's not really up to us. Like, be the best version of yourself and do everything that you can at the highest level possible, and be honest with yourself and be open to be like, hey, I didn't really give my best effort. That's kind of talking like with the high school kids and like, college kids in general. I feel like that's one thing that I am seeing is like younger kids don't lay it on the line as much as I feel like they used to. And I don't know, I've been in travel baseball for 2 years, and that's a whole nother animal. But like certain kids at times, it almost looks like they don't give full effort, because if they don't give full effort and then they fail, it's like, well, I didn't really try that hard.
Yeah.
I didn't lay it on the line. But like, when you lay it on the line, like, you have something to lose. And I think that's important. I think that matters, and I think that's how you grow and learn. And at the end of the day, like, baseball stops for every single person at some point in time. Like, you don't play. I don't know of anybody who's played in the big leagues until the day they died. That may be a possibility. That may be something that happened at some point in time. but it stops for everybody. So like being able to, be a man and understand how to handle yourself and handle a family and hold down a job and talk to people and communicate is more than half the battle.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a big part of my last, like, I guess what, April now, 8 months. Just living with no regrets that if I really want to do this baseball thing, that I have to go all out. And I saw this clip on, I guess, Twitter the other day. I guess it was a while ago. It was Jalen Hurts after the NFC Championship game, and I think Chris Long went up to him and he was like, "Hey, like, congrats, you played so good. Like, you're getting ready for the Super Bowl. What's up?" And he's like, "It's already written. I mean, there's nothing. I've put in the work. I know that I'm ready for this, but at the end of the day, I've prepared the most I can. And I believe in faith, and it's already written. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to go out and do what I can." And I think it's the preparation aspect of, like you were saying, where if they don't work hard enough or they don't like put in all the work, it's like they're not letting themselves down. But I mean, every time when you were there, at least it was, hey, if we're doing like a workout or like a head-to-head thing, like there's a winner and a loser. Like somebody's gonna have to do something that's gonna suck if you lose, and it builds the competitiveness and it builds the animosity. It builds up the moment a little bit to where I mean, we've talked about it 100,000 times of like, hey, championships are won in the fall. Like Mission Week sucks, but it's what makes it June a lot easier when it's 9,000 degrees and there's 100,000 fans on top of you somewhere in SEC country, and you're having to battle out a first round reliever. And it's like, that's the stuff that we do and win in the fall when you're having to do lunges at 4:30 in the morning across the football field with a weight on your back. Like, that's the stuff that you do. And I really do hope that it gets back to the way it is in high school baseball, because I have seen a little bit of a shift from just the kids that I've talked to and the way people act. But who are we to say? We're just trying to mold them.
No doubt, man. Yeah, and I think it's really important to understand that there's always a winner and there's always a loser in every aspect of life. Like there's not a second that goes by where it's like you either won that situation or you lost that situation, and doesn't mean you're a loser or a winner, but like you lost a certain situation, and that definitely happens. And if people can't understand that and kind of get behind that, life's going to be very hard, let alone baseball. But yeah,
Tough way. Yeah. All right. One more question, then we'll get to a couple of quick hits and we'll get you out of here. Thank you for your time, obviously. But um, I think it's been cool to see you've been able to work and create these relationships with all these coaches and work with all these teams. I mean, you've been at Wake. I remember us talking at the 23 Super Regional when they were playing Bama and just talking about all the stuff that you've been able to do. And Josh was pitching, who I went to high school with, who I've known since he was 14 and still had a high pitched voice. And how you changed his delivery in certain aspects to make it more efficient, help him move better, help him create more force through his body. And you've had Cam Manassi on, you've had all these guys on of teams and people you work with. But I guess the question is, what differences do you see in teams that you've worked with, whether it's Dietz with Cal State or whether it's Corey with Wake or whether it's Joey at High Point? Like, do you handle certain teams differently, or do you go in with the same mindset of, I'm going to make everybody better and here's how we're going to do it?
yeah, that's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that question before. I think it's again back to like the relationship side of things and knowing who you're working with and who you're talking to. Like certain things are important to Deeds, and there's certain things that are important to Walt over at Wake, and developing a relationship with Sean Camp at George Mason.
Yeah.
Like there'll be certain things that are important to him, and Tommy Winterstein, his pitching coach. Like there's certain things that are important to those guys that they want to be able to see, and it kind of just goes back to like when I was a GA and when I was a strength and conditioning coach in college baseball. It's like, I would, when I was at East Carolina, I would sit, I'd either be in the bullpen watching guys throw with Dietz or Dan or whoever it was, or I'd be behind the turtle watching guys hit with CG. So it's like when CG would be coaching somebody or like saying something about the swing, and I'm like, well, what are you trying to get him to do right there? So I just, again, trying to like ask questions to understand what it is that he's looking for. It's no different in this side of things. It's like, what are we looking to do here? Like, are we looking to be able to command the fastball glove side? Are we looking to be able to spin it? Like, what is it that isn't happening that you guys need to happen at a very micro level, and then from a macro level from the whole team? It's like, well, we want to be able to move better, be more efficient, and impact the baseball harder, or spin the baseball, like have better backspin on the baseball, whatever the case may be, in order to affect the outcome of the game. So just like asking good questions and understanding who they are and just watching as much as possible. Like with Wake, like, Mike McFerrin, who's with the A's now, was the lab coordinator, and then Sean Fisher's the lab coordinator over there now. Again, just like watching those guys teach the throw and watching Moose talk and like just being in there when big league guys are doing stuff and just watching what it is that they talk about and what's important to them, and then not being afraid to be like, yeah, hey, what in the hell were we just talking about? Like, I have no idea what we're talking about right there. Again, being vulnerable because I have a relationship with them. I don't have to be like, oh man, if I ask what that is, they're gonna drop me and not work with me anymore. Like, that's not like, we have a relationship to where it's like we're all trying to get better. Like, there's things they're gonna teach me, there's things that I'm gonna teach them. And to me, that's what it's all about, because I don't have to worry about like, oh, if I don't know every little thing, like, that university or that school or that player is not going to train with me anymore. Because again, it goes back to being a real person and being vulnerable. Like, we can't all be experts at everything, and people that try to be experts at everything like tend to struggle in the long run because people people just see through that stuff. But like, yeah, I think just be asking really good questions and being there for them and showing like, hey, I got your back, and being there for them the way that I want them to be there for me.
Cool. Yeah, no, that was a great answer. That's what I was looking for, and it's interesting to hear different perspectives and especially different head coaches' priorities on and it's year to year too. Like, for example, like last year, our priorities for our offense and what we needed to work on is completely different than what it is this year at ECU, and it's the same thing with other schools too, I'm sure. And you've been a big part of their success in being able to train what they're getting after. But couple quick questions. This is like first thing that comes to your mind. So quick fires.
Let's do it.
What was, and this could be a game, this could be you sitting next to the turtle and seeing something. What was the coolest experience that you've had from the time that you started at High Point to the time that you woke up this morning? Whether it's, like I said, like somebody coming into the lab and hanging out, you being at home in a regional and being like, wow, that was a really cool thing. Like, it could be the dog, whatever it is. What's the first thing that came to your mind? Like, that's the coolest baseball moment I've ever had.
Man, I don't know, Danny. I can't answer that. There's so many different things, man. Like, I mean, obviously Gav's behind me here. Like, he called me when he was in AA and, needed help with some things. He's like, I'm not ready for a 5-day rotation. And like, that obviously walking out, the first time, we hosted a regional and, my name being called and seeing everybody there, that gave me chills. And, whether it's, Zach Plesac needing help and him and his agent showing up at my garage next to our chicken coop. Like, there's just so many different really cool things that have happened, man. Like, there's too many just to pick one, but dog pile, and that again, another picture behind me that's
dude, it's awesome because of your face in it too. You're like,
yeah, like there's one over here where like it's the same picture, but like my hands up like that, and Jake's like flying through, and it looks like I'm about to punch him in the face, but like it's like trying to like dude, there's so many cool different things, like Gavin's debut, all these different guys who have had success, like stayed up to watch Zach pitch in the big leagues the other night, and it's like, if you would have thought, I remember when Zach was committed and he was coming on visits, he was still in high school and Jake's playing there, and two-way that can really do it all, and now he's pitching in the big leagues. I think if you would have asked anybody, probably but Zach and maybe a couple other kids, like, hey, is he gonna pitch in the big leagues or like, probably like, well, he's probably gonna play short in the show, like, and man, I mean, just watching that outing the other night, it's
98 with a freaking diabolical splitter. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, I think it was bottom of the 8th, 2-1. It was just like, Josh Bell hit a little single. But other than that, it was just, I mean, it was dominant. He looked like he belonged. Dude, there was just so many different things, like, for Chase Burns, like, doing what he was doing at Wake. And, I think they run ruled Boston College on a Friday night. And this was, he texted me like 2 hours later. He's like, hey, I need some work on my lower half. Like, can I come see you on Monday? Like, just so many different
17 punch outs against Boston College. Go to bed.
Right. Yeah, it's like so many different things there where, I mean, working with the collegiate national team, working with all those people, like there's just so many different experiences, man, like that have been so humbling and so rewarding. And like, I have to pinch myself almost sometimes. I'm like, is this really happening? Like, for a guy, like, if you really look at it, like, played club lacrosse in college, like had to learn so much about like just being a strength coach and learning about the game, to like all these autographed baseballs that I'm sitting here looking at from some pretty cool people, to where Frank Viola is right down the road. He was the, let me look at the ball so I don't say this wrong, 87 World Series MVP and 88 AL Cy Young Award winner. And he pitched at St. John's. I met him my first year as a GA, and he's the pitching coach of the High Point Rockers, which is 10 minutes down the road from
I
where
was just about
I
to
live.
say,
So I
yeah.
get to hang out with Frank and do stuff like that. He was in here the other day, Cole Rowland from Wake. Was doing some stuff with those guys. So like it was raining and they came in and pitched. And yeah, man, there's just so many different cool experiences that are pretty humbling and pretty like um, unreal. I mean, I'm looking at Cooch's perfect game ball that's on a Maryland
Oh
ball. I
God.
don't know if anybody has one of these actually. Like,
I was
so
about to say, I don't even think the lobby at Clark LeClaire has one of those.
yeah, so like Moose was at Maryland at the time. So I was like, hey, dude, I need you to send me a Maryland ball. And he's like,
If I can get him to sign it.
yeah, you
Like,
can fit
why?
that behind. And I'm like, no, for real, send me one. And so he did, and I have Cooch signed it. And it's sitting right, it's got the Maryland logo on it. Like that's
So cool.
maybe one of one, I don't know, but like it's a pretty cool thing. And
Close to it.
he's coaching our 17U team. Washer's still going to coach. I got Austin Beck working with Cooch. Like there's just so many awesome things. I mean, talk about Austin Beck. I got to tell this.
Dude.
So 6th overall pick. I didn't really know him all that well. Played with Ryder growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in and we were texting. I'm like, hey, I would love for you to be a part of whatever you want to be a part of. If you want to be a hitting coach for us at the lab, if you want to coach teams, like whatever you want to do. He finished his last year with the Dodgers, so we had a little bit of that, commonality there. And he drives an hour one way to be here.
Is he still in North Davidson?
Yep. So like he's in more like the Charlotte area, but
Okay.
being able to like he sat right across from me where I'm looking at this chair, and he goes, I asked him, I'm like, all right, dude, so everybody knows who you are. So as soon as we post this on social media, there's going to be travel teams, all these different organizations reaching out, being like, hey, so why don't you come work with us instead of working with Brandon? And I asked him that. I was like, not that like that I think you're going to go do something, but I'm just curious, like what's going to keep you with us? And he's like, man, I've worked my ass off for every single thing that I have in my life, and I'm pretty proud of that. And I've heard a lot about like who you are and how you're doing things, and I want to help you build this into something special. And like I think I had a tear roll out of my eye, and I stood up like, let's ride. So like he's been able to build up his lessons from 1 to 2 a week. He does lessons 3 days a week here, and he's in coach our 17 team, like I said, with Cooch. And he's built it up to where now he's got like 6, 7, 8 lessons a night, and he's only been here a month and a half, and it's a pretty cool thing. And just the way he is and who he is as a person, that you wouldn't know that he was successful and highly picked out of high school as he was and is. Man, he's just a great person. So like there's so many different things and people that have impacted my life and career through being a part of sports and performance and baseball and all these other sports too. Like it's pretty humbling and pretty special, man.
Yeah, you want to talk about a guy that has a lot of wealth of knowledge. Austin Beck, that guy was a stud. He, to this day, top 5 furthest hit balls I've ever seen in my life was when I went to watch them play at North Davidson. He hit a ball like probably into a deer stand in the woods somewhere behind their field. It was unbelievable, dude. It was
more like
that guy was unreal. Supposed to go to Carolina, but ended up obviously going to the draft, which was special to watch. Especially, I mean, he was one of the first kids from our area that really made it like as big as he did in terms of draft pick and money made and stuff like that. But
yeah, and then coincidence on that, we have a kid, Crawford Elrod, who's Westchester Day School right-handed pitcher, can really sink it. Ryder taught him a one seam before he went to Kentucky, but he can sink it and spin it. And there's a picture of him with Austin like right after he got drafted.
And at his draft party.
No, it was at Lids, like at the mall, like somewhere. It was unbelievable. Like he's sitting there with an A's hat on, and Crawford walks in. When him and Ryder were super close, and so he was emotional when RG was leaving, and I hugged him. I'm like, we're good, buddy. Like we're gonna be fine. Like I'm gonna miss him too, but like we're gonna be good.
Yeah.
And I told him about Austin and all that stuff. He's like, wait, I've heard that name. And he like texts his dad. And he's like,
I got a picture.
I've met Austin Beck. And I was like,
yeah.
Like, are you serious? And he's like, he showed me the picture, and sure enough, awesome. Little Crawford with Austin Beck, and now he's going to coach him this summer with Cooch. So it's
awesome.
Pretty small world, and now he's giving him lessons to a bunch of dudes around here. But it's pretty special, dude.
That's a heck of a coaching staff too. Cooch Maynor and Beck. That's not a team you want to run into on a Sunday.
Yeah, those kids are pretty lucky, and they have talent in their own right. So it's gonna be a pretty fun one to watch for
That's
sure.
exactly right. All right, next one. What is your favorite piece of memorabilia that you have? Whether it's baseball or like life related, something your mom or dad gave you. What is the one thing that you look at? It's like that's one thing I got to show off to people that come up to the office.
Yeah, in the there's a lot of them in here. Um, so there's one right here. My dad, he had his own circuit board and electrical business. When I was a little kid, before he got sick, and it's Golden Assembly, and it's just like the GA, like with like circuit boards. I'll pull it off the wall and show you. It's a pretty cool thing. Like this is super special to me, and like I
Oh yeah,
didn't realize like the G's like a circuit board, but it's pretty special, man. Like in obviously the jersey that CG gave me, the 23 jersey, and it's got the dog pile picture, and then all the boys run into the jungle, and then has that stuff. There's another one up here that it's a picture, and it's got Coach LeClaire on it. It's got Coach Eason. It's got Mac on there. It's an older picture. It's like a hand drawn one, and it says Omaha
sounds
on it.
like it.
It's got the old school pirate. I found this at a local thrift store in
No
Archdale
way.
when we first moved out here. I bought it for $7. I posted it
Yeah.
online, and Tommy Easton was like, "I don't know who number I don't know what number 168 is, but I'm gonna find out who that was."
Yeah.
I rescued it. It's in my office. It's in my home. Like that's a pretty cool one, just
Yeah.
because of all the people that are on that picture right there. It's a pretty special one. Yeah, there's so many. Just signed baseball, signed cleats. That cleats that gave me like when he pitched in the big leagues. The Father's Day cleats and
Yeah.
stuff. There's just so many cool things that again have been able to acquire over the years. Signed pictures of Gavin and yeah, pretty cool stuff.
There was a moment like last October. I was working out at Next Level, and I had a full conversation with Tommy Eason, thinking I was Trey Savage, and I didn't have the heart to tell him I was Danny. So I just went on. I was like, "Yeah, Trey Savage from Boyertown, Pennsylvania, first rounder, not a big deal." He's just like, "Keep moving."
Yeah, smart man. Yeah, Tommy
Yeah.
he's one of the most special people. Like talk about like just grit and like our culture from East Carolina. Like
Oh yeah.
a lot of it came from Tommy too. Like in just the way he was when CG was a player and stuff like that. But yeah, just Macon played for him at Pitt, and he just talks about him all the time, just of how he is and was, and just a really special dude.
Yeah. No, he's the best. He's around quite a bit. We scrimmaged them this past fall, which was fun to watch. I'll take a quick break from the show to tell you guys about our friends over at Young's Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. Young's Physical Therapy and Sports Performance is the only clinic in Greenville that you should be going for your PT and training needs. They specialize in physical therapy for athletes and the active population. Their PTs are sport specific and know how to treat any injury on and off the field. They also have private, semi private, and team training for workout classes and conditioning, and they are all highly trained professionals who collaborate and utilize a team approach in an elite 9,300 square foot facility. Thank you to Kevin and Jennifer for supporting the show and being the official physical therapy provider for ECU Athletics. They are amazing in the community. Hearing Kevin's testimony on the show a couple months ago shows you that they are good, God-loving people, and that all he wants to do is help and provide for people. So you can see him in the dugout all the time at the games, but they are here for you guys to work together and make you guys stronger. Appreciate you guys supporting the show. Thank you, Kevin and Jennifer. I guess I kind of asked you earlier, but if there was one game from the time you joined staff to the time you left that you're like, that is the funnest game I've ever been a part of in a Pirate uniform, what was that one?
Hmm.
And it can be the regional clinching after you lost the first one to Quinnipiac. It could be that one, but
Yeah, when we were that region was probably the most fun looking back on it, just like how everything went, and I knew who Quinnipiac was. I don't know if everybody else did because being a GA with St. John's, like we played those guys. So like
yeah.
people were like Quinna who, and I remember walking like, hey,
It's
don't
like,
do
hey,
that.
don't, hey,
Do not do that shit.
yeah, don't do that. Don't do
And they
that.
sure could, and they had that donkey who ran one out, I think, and
Oh yeah.
so we got to play state, an elimination game on Saturday, and the weight room was in the old pitch. I guess it's the pitching indoor now. But like we had 3 racks in there, and dudes were in there like lifting, and Bryson walks in, with no jersey on, pants, and he's like benching 225, and like
What a
some starter sitting
complete
over there in the corner, and
oh,
like Dusty Baker's like, it's gonna be a rough day for you, buddy. Like just like the way, just the confidence that they had and how they went
that's
about stuff.
beautiful.
It was like we're about to like we're throwing med ball. Like because State I think was playing before us, if I remember correctly. I don't know if that's true or not,
They
but
played Campbell, yeah, because that was that CG says that is the only time he's played a regional and has played a night game. Game
yeah.
one.
Yep. So that's it. All right. So that's exactly what was happening because I remember like they were in there. So I think State's starter was in the corner, and like our guys are walking around like they own the place, like we should, and we're throwing med balls against the wall and stuff, and it's just loud as hell, and like people are like poking their head in there, and it's like it's gonna be a rough day for you guys.
Yeah, come get some. Yeah.
And Jake Agnos goes out there and absolutely shoves, and like every time I see somebody come off the mound and like do all that stuff, like I think of Jake and I think of that time, and
He was the first one to do it. Yeah.
it was unbelievable in just the way it happened. It was like, all right, like you want to play against us here?
You're gonna
Good
get our
luck.
best.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
good luck. I think we may have lost 4 games, including the Quinnipiac game. That the whole year, I think we were 21-3 or something along the lines. Like in Greenville, like the Pirates didn't lose very much. So it's like you want to play us an elimination game with the talent that we had on that team. Like, welcome to it.
And with Jake with an unlimited pitch count, like 170 pitches later, here, come get some. Yeah.
Go get him, champ. Yeah. I mean, and then still pissed off when he got him off the mound. Like,
yeah, he had to like army carry him off. Yeah, no,
I mean, all of that whole year was so much fun, and just like, but that day probably specifically, you felt like, after we lost to Quinnipiac, you go home and, Emily at the time didn't really understand what we had to do and the percentages for us to make it. And I'm like, playing and everything. I'm like, look, this is what has to happen. And she's like, huh.
You got to do what?
But we're here. But we're in Greenville. So, like, we're here and we get to do our thing. And we did. And it was a pretty special thing. And just, the way the boys were so loose and CG, was able to allow them to play loose and encourage them to play loose and do all that stuff. Like, first coming out of the mudroom saying wild stuff. Like it's just a fun time to be in the dugout and just you can see the boys competing and Packard hitting balls to the moon and JP throwing his hand up at first.
Yo, that video is sick from down the first base. Oh my god,
that stuff is unbelievable. And like that's like I feel like that's who we are. Like that's East Carolina. Like if you look at like some of the Steve Logan, like you go for it on 4th down at East Carolina, like that type
every time.
Like that shit, like that's and like that's East Carolina. That's who we are. Like, yeah, once you want like Ruff talks about want some get some. Like it was, dude. Like literally, that's what it felt like. And just to watch those guys go out there and compete. And you got Dwanye, Brickhouse, Washer, Sam, Hope, like just so many different guys that were elite baseball players. And they didn't shy away from it. It was like, okay, sounds good. Like it. Yeah, good. Here it comes. It was, I would say probably that Saturday in Greenville.
Yeah, there was. I've told this story a few times. I don't mean to be repetitive with it, but it is a great story. We lost this past year to Evansville in the first game, same kind of thing, and it was cool to have Pack and Franny around because they were on that 19 team and they were coaching and around, obviously. And we show up. I mean, we just kind of go home. And we're like, first of all, what the hell just happened?
Right.
And then you come back to the field the next day. You're like, all right, well, we don't have an excuse now. We just got to do it or we're going to die. And it's Burns versus Savage, which I'm going to ask you about in a second.
Yeah.
But it was Burns versus Savage. And we're like, all right, well, if we got to get there, we got to beat the best.
Yep.
We're in the hitters meeting. And we normally, I don't know if it's the way it used to be, but we used to have a couple pitchers in the hitters meeting just to kind of like hear what the plan was, just so we can kind of keep the hitters in check. If one of them starts to act like the dick, then we'll kind of keep him in check a little bit. But I cannot make this up. I have never, and I've been around. I was around for a long time up to that point. I had never seen CG so damn animated. Like I thought he was hitting leadoff for us that day. I was like, he is up there like in his squat, like just giving the kid in front of him a shower with his spit, like just so fired up to even have the opportunity to go out there and play these guys. And lo and behold, like Trey goes out. 1, 2, 3. First pitch, Burns. Carter rips a single into center field. Like, we're here. Afterwards, after the game, they didn't tell us this before this, but Sailor was at the game and we were all like celebrating like with our girlfriends, families, whatever. Hack and Franny come over to a couple of us and we're like, you just had to beat them and now you're gonna win the whole thing. That's all you had to do. You had to get the big dog out and now you win the whole thing. And they were like, that's exactly what we thought was we lost to Quinnipiac and it's like if we beat State, we're not losing our we're either losing we're not or we're not gonna like we win the entire thing. We get this game. One hell of a weekend.
Yeah, dude. When I look at that 19 team, like, we went and played the number one team in the country, UCLA, and we had them on the ropes twice. And, think about it. You win one of those games, I think we won to Air Force. Like, we don't lose to Air Force or we take care of business in the regular season. Like, maybe we're not a 10 seed. Yeah. Maybe we're an 8 seed. Or, Louisville was up against the ropes against the Redbirds. And
I know that on the championship game, the elimination game.
We had literally won, and I think they were down by 2 right after the dog pile. And it's like, oh boy, if there's a super in Greenville in 19, like who knows what happens, obviously. Like that's a shoulda, coulda, woulda type thing. It never happened. But like my point earlier, like we didn't lose very often there. So like you never know what happens, and it's cool to think about, but we'll get there at some point. But yeah, man, like so when Trey and oh my gosh, and Burns go head to head, like me and I was at Bridgie's wedding, so like it was me and
you FaceTime
and RG were getting ready to head over to the wedding, and I'm like, oh boy, like we're watching the game, and it was some wild stuff. And Trey Splitter was on, and talking to those guys, like obviously like I was working with Wake that year, and like talking with those guys, like Nick Kurtz just got called up to the big leagues, and I was like, Nick, what do you think? He goes, that's the best pitch. I mean, you could see it. Like they were swinging. Like he could say, like, "Hey, buddy, I'm throwing a splitter here," and like they were still swinging over it. So like it was obviously he had it working, and it was disgusting. And some of the best hitters in big league couldn't see it. So it was a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that was going to be one of the questions. Was like, you worked with Wake, you worked at ECU, you're an ECU grad, or are you just watching neutral and just trying not to cheer for either side? But
I got a stolen crossbone on my arm with my initials. It was like it's one of those things. It was like, boy, like we're definitely going to get matched up with Wake, and then they're going to play at our place. And Bridgie's wedding was there. I was like, I'm glad I didn't have to be there, but like just like it was such a cool thing to watch because I knew so much about both programs. And just like the way that they were all competitors and the way they got to go about it. And those staffs are no strangers to each other. Like we played, we played against Moose wherever he's been at with St. John's or Maryland or whatever. So like, it was, I think those staffs were familiar with each other and a lot of mutual respect there just for what they've all done for each other. But being able to watch that with Dietz and with Ryder before we go to Bridgie's wedding was a pretty cool experience at the Outer Banks in and of itself. Like just being able to like watch that, and it was a fun time.
Exactly right. All right, well, last question, then we'll get you out of here. Coming from a guy that has been in a lot of places and done a lot of things, what is, I guess we'll call it a high school kid. What's one thing to tell an aspiring guy that wants to, play at the highest level of college baseball and eventually make it to where the Gavins, the Kurtzes, the Agnoses, whoever else you've gotten the chance to work with want to make it to that point? What's one thing, if you could make it as simple as it could be, what's one thing that you would tell them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I ask people that on our show too, like being able to understand that you're going to be your best coach and you're the only one that's consistent throughout your entire career. Like if you look at it, like how many pitching coaches have you had in your career playing baseball?
Too many.
And you're going to have another one this season. So like being able to understand that side of things and like take things from people. You can always learn from people. Take things from people, make it your own, ask good questions, have a good core group of, professionals and people that you believe in, and go all in on it. Don't leave anything. It's kind of to my point earlier, like don't leave any doubt, lay it all on the line, like really go for it. Like go for it and see what happens. Because to be successful in anything in life, you have to be vulnerable and you have to have the chance to fail. And you may fail, but you won't fail forever if you keep fighting and just keep pushing things forward. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things is understanding that you're going to have to learn how to take in information and process it. And if you don't understand it, ask those questions, because nobody can hit for you. Nobody can throw a two seam for you. Like, they can't do it for you. Those coaches can't. Um, Understand that you're the one that's going to have to go do it, and you're going to have to learn how to compete without a pacifier in your mouth. You're going to have to go be a dog. So like learn how to do that stuff. And if you don't know how to, and if you're not good at that, like, find somebody that's going to hold you accountable. Like, there's things that I'm not great at that I have Macon hold me accountable for, and my wife, and all kinds of things. So just put people around you that are going to put you in a position to have that opportunity to be
Yeah.
successful as you want.
No, I mean, it goes back to what you were saying at the beginning with just surrounding yourself with people that are like minded and can make you better. And it's what you've done, and it's what you'll continue to do at the lab too. And check out BG's podcast. We mentioned it a couple of times. He's had Zach Please Zach. He's had Dave Pearson on. He's had Cam Manassi on. He'll have, like he said, he'll have Wiz and Bartle on, who are two great pitchers within their own right. But BG, dude, I really appreciate the time. We kept you for probably longer than I anticipated, but it was a great conversation. So I'm not going to stop you. But it was
All good.
awesome
Yeah, that
having
was
you on.
awesome, dude. Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah, no problem. But there is Brandon Golden, and thanks for coming on, brother.